Good evening,
Rock on.
infidels. So good.
Oh my gosh. Jeff
What's-
Dunham's a national treasure, man.
If he's not, he's quickly becoming one. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back, or welcome for the first time to the Battle Bros podcast.
Indeed.
My name is Mac. This handsome SOB, son of Boricua, before anybody gets offended.
That's right.
This is this guy over here. This is Alamo. I gotta stop for just a minute. We're gonna kind of break the flow of the show for just a minute. I gotta tell you how awesome this guy is, because like I have had an absolute shit week at work. Like it's been rough. I mean, if you know what I do, I can tell you about it sometimes, but just like it's been getting accustomed to a new schedule, dealing with clients that are just sometimes a little bit on the coarser side of things. Things get a little bit rough. And like I'm sitting here, I was late getting on here a few minutes ago. I'm dragging ass. And I get on here and I'm talking to this guy to my left over here, and I'm just like, let's go kick this chicken. Absolutely. Like I'm ready. It might have been that. It might have been this this Monster energy drink that I've got going on here. We're not sponsored by them, and they're not.
He is slightly caffeinated, folks.
I'm right where I need to be, brother. Let's I need
to come off of my caffeine high, so chamomile.
Yeah, I've been drinking this honey chamomile vanilla tea from Walmart, man. It's right as rain, dude. Like it's right where it needs to be. It's so good. So, like I said, welcome to the show. If you haven't been with us before, check us out online. You can find us on any one of the social media accounts. We've got the YouTube, we got the Facebook,
share,
the social,
subscribe, hit the notification bell. All of them social medias.
We got the Insta, we got the Twitter, we got the Facebook, we got the UTwit face, all that kind of crazy stuff.
Spotify, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So check us out. If you haven't been to the show before, we're just two guys that know each other, have known each other for a long time. Way too long. Yeah. We have stayed friends through a lot of various things that have happened in our lives. We are both GWAT veterans. Alamo went to Iraq. I went to Afghanistan. Not too many years apart. But, that's something that we have in common. We're both Army vets. We're both 11 series guys. And, he's a
Chuck.
He's a Chuck. I'm a bang bang. So, we have a lot of similarities. And you should be amazed. I want to warn you folks, if you're joining us for the first time, you should be amazed at the fact that we can put on a damn podcast, because we don't get a lot of things done when we're supposed to a lot of times.
If you look at like all the scars from our knuckles,
yeah.
Kind of that should tell you a little bit about
that's a shirt right there, just us going looking like friggin' looking like simian idiots. That's great. Oh man. So
do the caveman effect. I'm gonna animate us and put us on a t-shirt. It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
So hopefully you like what you hear. We'll get into how we got started at the end of the show and whatnot. What did we talk about last week, dude? I don't even remember. Dude, like I said, it's been a week, man. What are we talking about? Do I gotta look it up real quick?
It's possible, because now I'm having a brain fart.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
My bad.
We talked about last week.
Who can get to it quicker? Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Let's see.
Like I said, folks, it's amazing we're able to put on a show when we can't remember what we did from week to week.
We talked about getting over. It was the Go to Sick Call Damn It episode.
Oh, yeah. That was a good one.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And in case you guys didn't know or remember what that episode was about, we essentially were talking about how, we as veterans need to get over not trying to take care of our issues, whether that's mental, physical, whatever.
Get over that military machismo and just be like, hey,
admit you got a problem.
Hey, go to sick call, damn it. Like, insert,
God.
Right?
Bill. Oh, Bill. I miss you, man.
What are you doing?
We need to get We should have him on the show
already.
we should have him on the show just as a VIP, just so he could talk about when he was in Nam
We
and
could have
all
him
that
do
good
an
stuff.
intro. We could have him do an intro. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. I'm gonna reach out to him this weekend, man. No joke. No joke. But just have him saying, "Hey, shithead, you're listening to the Battle Bros podcast. Pay attention." Something like that. That would be our opener.
So
that would be so good.
That would be so funny.
So good. Oh my god. And if you folks are know the bill that we're talking about, you know that's pretty damn spot on. So it's all good.
Yeah.
But yeah, last week we talked about going to sick hall, basically just getting the help you need when you need it.
Exactly.
Don't go into that whole spiral of I'm good, because then after a while you realize, well, fuck, I'm not good, and I put myself here. So it was a good conversation. I thought we did really good with it.
And that's that thing. I think that's kind of the thing that like kind of a lot of the times leads into guys being a part of this the 22 a day statistic. It's something that needs to be addressed, and we need to address it more often to guys in the community, because I really don't think it's something that should be ignored. Because I'll admit I was a culprit of it. Like I denied my issues for like a few years, dude. A few years after I got back, so I can't. One of the
biggest things you can face is that reflection in the mirror, and if you can't face that, it's like, let's have a chat, let's have a talk. So, but again, I'm biased, but I thought it was a great episode. All of our episodes are pretty awesome, except for like the first couple. They're pretty cringe. I will admit that, because we didn't know what the hell we were doing. We've been doing this is episode 059 that we're talking about tonight. So it's we've had some cringeworthy stuff on here. A couple of them we thought would hit, and they were just like,
no. We made ourselves laugh, but when we watch it again, it's just like it's not that funny.
That's not great at all. So.
Jeez.
So we want to hear from you guys. We want to know what you want us to talk about.
Yes, feedback.
Some suggestions, feedback,
leave
all
comments
that kind of stuff
in the comment boxes.
Even though we've been doing this for going into the majority of our, more than halfway through our third season, we're still learning. We're still learning how to do this. Still trying to get better and improve and make it more of a.
Trying to make it better for y'all.
Make it better for the consumers that need to see this kind of stuff. People that are going to be watching or listening or consuming the content, so to speak.
That's right, baby.
It's not always about us watching it or somebody watching it. But you might, and we'll say this later at the end of the show, but it's always kind of about you tell a friend, and then they tell a friend, and then somebody hears it who needs to hear it, and they're just like, oh, well, shit, I'm not in as a dark place or as a bad place as I thought. There's hope for me. I can get help. That's what we're trying to do. And
the message isn't always about you. It could be someone you know.
Pass it along, pay it forward, all that good stuff. So, so as I mentioned, this is our latest and greatest episode of the Battle Bros podcast with us. This is episode 059. We're doing a little bit of a special show today because of the fact we're going to have. We've only done this, I think, once or twice before. I think it's just with Brian that one time, right? Where we had a special guest.
Yeah, the last time we had a special guest.
So this is the second time we've done this. We have a gentleman that's going to be coming on here in just a few moments. Alamo knows him from his church and stuff.
Correct.
The episode
that's Cornerstone Church in Deltona.
There you go. Shout out to Cornerstone Church in Deltona. So the name of this episode is Faith of the American Warrior. And let's go ahead and bring on our special guest. This gentleman, his name is Josh Rhoads. Josh is the pastor of Cornerstone Church in Deltona. He's also a former Army guy.
Small groups. Pastor of small groups.
I'm already messing
up. Yeah, I'm one of the pastors here, my friend. I'm not the lead.
Oh, well, okay.
But it's all good.
You have to forgive me for not knowing all that stuff. But anyway, Josh, welcome to the program, man. Thanks so much for coming on and chatting with us tonight. We appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure.
Of course. I know Alamo's been excited to do this one for a while. He's like, dude, I got this great idea. I'm going to get my guy Josh to come on here. It's going to be dope. I'm like, okay. Well,
yeah, we've been talking about it. We've been having to link up schedules, man. So I'm happy that I'm able to be here. And again, thanks for this opportunity to be here with y'all.
And the moons have aligned. There we go. So the episode, the title for tonight's episode, everyone, is "Faith of the American Warrior." And the reason we brought Josh on is Josh is kind of an interesting guy because of the fact that not only is he a pastor at this church, but he's also a former 11 Bang Bang. As we were mentioning beforehand, you were stationed at Fort Riley for out at Big Red 1. So we're going to be kind of talking about like the differences in this aspect of religion. From kind of 3 different viewpoints, perspectives, religiously, so to speak. So, Josh being a pastor, Alamo being a little bit more devout in his faith, and me kind of being somewhere in like the gray area-ish kind of thing. So we all have our own beliefs, but just to the level of faith and to the intensity of that faith is probably going to be the big deciding and qualifying factor to differentiate the 3 of us. So, Josh, let's get a little bit of background. I know you don't like to talk about yourself too much, as you stated earlier, but let's just get a little bit of background information. Are you a Florida boy by chance? Are you from elsewhere? Or?
Yeah, I'm a Florida boy, man.
Wow, I didn't even know
that. Yeah, I'm a Florida boy.
Nice.
Sure. Yeah,
love it.
I lived here since I was 4.
Okay, good stuff. How did you go about joining the Army?
So I always knew I was going to join. My grandfather, he was a corpsman, and he served in 3 wars. And
wow,
yeah. And then my dad was in the military.
That's a hell of a freaking lineage to inherit. That's amazing.
Yeah. He actually, my grandma's from South Korea, so when they had that Korean conflict, he married who is my grandma. Obviously, brought her over, and then my mom, and blah blah blah. And here we are. So then my dad was also in the military. He was stationed Fort Hood, and that's where I was born. And so I was born on Fort Hood, Texas. I just come from it. And growing up, I've always had a warrior spirit, man. I was always into weapons, tactics, and fighting. And you just want to be a warrior, And so as I was growing older, getting up, after school and everything, I always knew I was going to go in. And so I figured I'd go to a place where I can hone my skills, but also learn some new ones and get some experience. Because, when you're young, you don't really have, like, that was it for me. Like, the military was it. I didn't have a backup plan. School wasn't a thing, right? So I was just like, I'm going to go be a warrior, and I'm going to go do this thing. And so leading up to it, I already knew it. And I remember I was in class, and I was it wasn't like a dropout prevention school. That was later on for me. But I was in this class that was supposed to be a lot easier for, like, I guess, kids who had learning disabilities, or maybe you just, you know what I mean? Like, I did the FCAT. I was taken out and put into a different room because I needed more time for things like that,
Sure.
So I was taking up these classes. And anyway, I remember being in class, and then the towers got hit, and I just remember watching it, and all of us, everyone. And I had friends whose dad worked in the Pentagon, and just all this stuff is going on, and we just, it was just in that moment. And then, I graduated in 2004, and then I ended up going in the military shortly after I graduated. And so when I did that, man, I was really excited, but this thing was hopping and popping in 2004. We had already been in, obviously. So it wasn't like Fallujah. That push had already happened with the Marines and all that stuff, so things were a little calmer, but not so much, right? We had already been there for some time by the time I went in. So I linked up with this recruiter, man. I was out in like 3 days, and it was cool. I got a $20,000 sign-on bonus. I went in as a PFC.
One of the lucky ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, she held Sergeant Ross, man. If you're watching this, thank you. Her name was Sergeant Ross, man. She was an MP, and she was real cool, man. She was about it though, Yeah, for sure. And so, I walked in, I was the easy one, because I said, listen, I just want to be infantry. Right. And they were like, let's go. Was that you? Yeah.
That was me. They're like, I was like, I was reading about this infantry thing, and he's probably sitting there going, got a bass on the line, got a fish on the line. Hey-oh.
Yeah, I was the easy one, man. So I went in, and I scored really, I guess, barely made it to even do that job, and man, I was out. and then I was out in 3 days, and then we got after it, man. I went to Fort Benning, Georgia, and we arrived at like 3 a.m, and we went to work, and then from there, the short of it is we basic training, Fort Benning, Georgia. We didn't go to any AIT or NTC or any of that stuff. You stay there, right? And then
so you were there for 14 weeks, just like we were. Yeah, 14 weeks OSIT.
That's the home of the infantry, man. It was cool, though. That's where Airborne's at. They were doing Ranger. They had a Ranger class going through when we were there, too. So it was pretty cool to see that, too. So, yeah, then we
Uh-oh. I think we lost him.
I think it froze.
Welcome back.
Hey.
Oh, hey, there we go.
Yeah. So we got our orders to go, and it turns out that a lot of us went to the same unit, which was Fort Riley, Kansas. We were told that the unit we were going to be with was in Hawaii, and we were excited about it. And then come to find out, we get our orders, and they're telling us we got to go to Fort Riley, Kansas, because they were moving the unit from Hawaii to there, so they weren't going to ship us to Hawaii to ship us to Kansas. They threw us in Kansas.
Oh,
let me interrupt you. So, like, I remember
needs the army.
Yeah, right. Big green weenie strikes again.
Yep.
I remember the comedian Sinbad.
Yeah.
So he was telling a joke one time. Because when he was a younger man, he talked about joining the military. He's like, man, I ended up joining the Navy. He said, I'm going to travel the world. I'm going to see all kind of stuff. He goes, you know where they sent me? Wichita, Kansas. You know how hard it is to describe Wichita, Kansas when you broke down on the side of the road? It's like, where are you at? I'm on a road. There's a telephone pole. There's some dead birds. Come get me,
Florida boy going to Kansas where there's snow and nothing, right? Like you got Topeka, Kansas. You got Topeka, Kansas, which that any city that's outside pretty much of the base is really staying alive through there. So from the base, you know what I mean? So it wasn't the best. And then you had Junction.
It was out there. Stuff,
Junction City, Manhattan was right out the way. You had to, just to go to Topeka or Kansas City, you had to go about 2 hours away,
Yeah.
So just to see any kind of different, like fun, more like kind of like what we have our Orlando,
Yeah.
So it was a different experience. Man, I had to learn how to drive in snow and all that stuff. I did some fun stuff, but we went to Kansas, and then we had this big celebration thing coming over. And it turns out that the Army at the time, the reason why they're throwing money at us and all this other stuff is that they were doing an experiment, and they wanted to see how much or how quick they can get a battalion combat ready, how quickly. And so we literally, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, we had HHC down on the very end. We had to build all of our stuff on the inside. We're dry walls. We're building offices, everything, right?
So not just putting together a unit organically, but just like also your barracks and like your office buildings and stuff on Fort Riley.
100%.
Damn.
Our barracks, our barracks were really nice. They were in a hotel, so we didn't have to build the barracks. Kind of deal. But the company on the inside was one giant warehouse that we had to section out when we got there. When I first got to my unit, we carried there was only 3 of us. You know what I mean? So and we were just in this giant warehouse. And then as everyone starts filtering in, we're building up our offices. I was a part of Delta. I was a 3rd platoon Delta, and yeah, man. I mean, the bathrooms and the structure was there, but we had to build out everything else, And then, when we came back, it came to be true because we didn't even have a battalion. There was nowhere to come back to.
Dang.
They either sent you home if that's what you wanted, if you didn't re-enlist, or they sent you on to the unit that you re-enlisted with, or gave you the time off that you needed, whatever. So when we got back, there was no place to even go. You know what I'm saying? Except for you and holdover. So we were literally and they threw a lot of money at us, man. We were high speed for real. It was really cool because we did training with like the Kansas City college football team. They came out and they trained with us. They did a big article in the newspaper, and we're battle carrying these big old guys, man, linebackers and stuff. I'm 5'6", man. You know what I mean? But we was getting it done. And
you trying to buddy carry some of them corn-fed boys. Like,
yeah, well, my knee, I would only be able to get about 5 steps, and then we have to take a break. Just a little guy. And then we eventually had to do teamwork and everything, because there's a whole teamwork thing. It was really cool. It was really cool for them to come out and see how we trained, and also to talk to them. But I think all in all, it was about a year and a half. I mean, we had guys going to air assault school, CLS. I mean, I went to ITAS, missile training school. They were just throwing training in schools left and right, man. We had guys going airborne. We had guys going down to snipers, the HAC guys. And it was really cool experience. We met General Schumacher of the Army many times. He came out. He's like, "You guys, Black Lions, are making a big stir at the Pentagon and hyping us up and everything." And it was cool. It was a good experience.
I met General Schumacher once. He was involved. He's involved at a charity here in Tampa, and he actually came into the retail shop that I worked at, and we kind of struck up a conversation. Next thing I know, he's shaking my hand. I'm like, "Is this a 4-star general's coin? Like, this never happens to me. No way."
Dude, he's super cool, man. He really is cool.
Great dude. I mean, I saw him in just like an old crushed up country ass,
Yeah. But his stars, it was
boots.
Crazy because the stars don't even fit on the berets. See, we had the berets at the time. They didn't, the covers the way they weren't a thing.
Berets here, the stars are like out to here.
Yeah, it was a weird looking thing.
Yeah.
You respected it though. You didn't say nothing.
No, not at all. No, I mean, but that's a good dude right there. Like when I talked to him, you could just tell that was a leader. He was a good, fantastic dude.
Oh, 100%.
So, you deployed with Big Red One?
Black Lions, yeah. Baghdad.
How long did you stay? How long did you stay with Big Red One before you left?
We were. What do you mean?
Like, how long were you with that? Did you do just one enlistment? Did you stay for multiple enlistments?
No, I just stayed with one enlistment.
Okay, so you were there like what, 6 years?
No, my contract was for 3.
Oh, that's right, active duty. I'm sorry. I'm used to I'm used to everything with the guard and stuff, so it's all like
that's how they rolled with us back then there, buddy.
Yeah, I was active, and again, I think there was because at that time I think because we didn't know it, all Joe sees or a new recruit hears is $20,000 and some rank, right? But there was a whole thing behind it because contracts and stuff change all the time. Right. What they're allowing goes in and out changes. I had to, at the time, I don't know what the tattoo policy is or any of that stuff. I had to, on a paper, I had to draw all my tattoos all over the place. And I had to get a waiver for me to even get into the Army. And I don't know what the waiver looks like now, so
I know that
so much.
I know that's changed quite a bit in the last decade or so, because it just kind of depends on the guys that you have.
It's definitely gotten a lot more lax.
Like when we had
a lot more.
Not the guy now, but the guy before him, Sergeant Major Grinston now is the Sergeant Major of the Army, but the guy before him, Sergeant Major Daly, he was in 11 Bang Bang. So he had his Ranger tab, all that stuff. He's like, I don't care, show up, do your job. Who gives a crap what your tattoos look like? The guy before him, though, was Sergeant Major of the Army Chandler, and he was a Cav guy. So the tattoo policy got kind of strict back then. So it's very interesting, and this is why I say, Alamo, we need to talk about this whole cyclical stuff and timelines and paradigm shifts, all that kind of stuff. We should have that conversation. But it's interesting to see how all that kind of stuff changes. I don't know what it is now. I just know that they went back to the old pinks and greens, which I think look dope. They're awesome because they have.
I wish they'd have gone back to that when we were still in. That would have been so.
Man. The blues were okay, but it's why are we making a ceremonial uniform for everyday use? That's kind of dumb. When you're wearing your combat patch as your enamel, thing. I didn't agree with that. It's there's just more crap to pin onto it. You got to wear a metal replica of your tabs. No,
they just need to go back to regular BDUs and call it a day, man. That was
quality.
They held up.
Yep.
If you did the ACU pattern in BDU style, that and that camouflage, but that layout and stuff where you got all the flaps and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, personally,
the multicam looks good. I like it. Apparently it works.
It does.
I never used it. This guy knows. Did you have it issued, Alamo?
Right before we went to Afghanistan. Well, the MP unit that I was going to go with at the time, they got it right before. Like I actually was about to get issued the uniform, and then because I was leaving, they were like, "Eh." So, yeah, but it is a great uniform though.
So okay,
Yeah,
so
I was
kind
the
of
second rotation with the new ACUs. Like we were right after basic training because we got issued the ACUs. We were the second ones to be on the scene, like graduate with the new ACUs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There wasn't a whole lot of people that had them yet, and I got to tell you, man, them things were garbage, bro. Straight up. Straight up.
So
no, they blended in with stuff. All right, a pile of gravel.
Staticky TV. You got
maybe your
got
grandma's
that
ugly couch.
ugly couch, or you got abuela's staticky ass TV. You just be like, and that's you're gonna freeze right in front of that damn thing. But listen,
Yep.
this it's just like with Kyle's interview when we talk about the nitty gritty stuff. Here you got three guys. We're 311, we're 311 series guys, and we're just talking about stuff the way it is. And we'll tell you, ACUs were trash.
Garbage.
ACUs were hot garbage. Thank you. Said what I said. Come at me, bro. Moving on. Anyway,
had they used different color patterns, it might have worked better.
I mean, the color pattern was whatever. It was just the quality of it. Sand and dust don't go well with Velcro. It just doesn't.
I had a couple of crotch blowouts on those uniforms. I'm not gonna lie.
Pockets, I remember getting issued a new pair of trousers, and like you had the calf pockets at the bottom of the trouser leg, and like the leading edge where it was supposed to be stitched down. Nah, fam. It's like there was a oops, I forgot. Oh, I don't want to break.
Yeah,
I forgot about this. It's trash. It was a cool idea.
They were trying something. Look, they weren't bad, but they were. I mean, if you're gonna, for me, the guys that, if you're just wearing it around town, it was a great. It was a good looking uniform. I didn't think it was bad. I like to crease it though. We couldn't crease it because you'd melt the fabric, right? It was breathable, which is good when you're over in those kind of environments. But still, I think if you're going to be running and gunning, having a more quality of a uniform where you're not pockets are ripping off and all this when you need that stuff.
I remember seeing because where I was at in Afghanistan, we had a couple of different ODA teams rotate through, and these guys were taking like their old Woodland BDUs and like taking the pockets and putting the chest pockets up here and then all that, like, and they were like doing their own version of it, and it's like that just looks like it works so much better. Like, duh, like obviously, and you got guys that know what they're doing, and plus the whole they change the pattern. There's this thing about multicam is from Cry. It was invented by Cry Precision, and then they changed the pattern enough to where it was not a copyright infringement, so they didn't have to pay the copyright to Cry Precision and stuff.
Pattern.
Yeah, it was. We call it Scorpion, and I was just like, really?
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, that gray and all that don't go in desert. No. It's just weird, man. But
I mean, there's nothing like the Marines have it simple. They've got digital woodland and they've got digital desert, and it works. Like, let's just stick with what we had. We had three color desert BDU, and we had woodland, and it's like, all right, we're good.
But I still think, terrain dictates, and I understand that you have to have different uniforms to identify different things and different. I get it, but those kind of colors just doesn't. You make yourself more of a target. You stand out, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Before we derail this conversation any further, let's get back on track, shall we, boys? So you were there. You did one enlistment with Big Red 1. You got out. How did you go about going? Now, let me kind of start this conversation this way. Were you a person of faith when you were in the military? What did that look like? I mean, were you devout in your beliefs? Were you kind of like, or was it, more so when you were on deployment, kind of like, I'll tell you for me. So like my parents both grew up Catholic. They did not get married in the church because the church was like, your mom's kind of young, whatever. So my mom and dad left the church just because they're like, we're getting married, so bump y'all. So I never really knew that growing up. Because and that's something my mom has said. She's like, the one thing I regret is not getting you boys kind of exposed to that and kind of at least let you make your own decisions and stuff. I was like, I get that. My first kind of experiences with that was when, excuse me, when I was at Basic, when I was there from in '03. I was at Delta 254, right there where I know it's all changed now, but it was right there at the start of Sand Hill from 30th AG. That's not even 30th AG anymore. It's something else, like another type of reception facility or something. But anyway, we would go. You had the option of going to Mass every Sunday. That's like one of the few times. And me not really being a person
I
of
know I
faith,
did.
I would just kind of go. Just I kind of went the one time because I knew my mom and dad and my family had some Catholic practices and methodologies and stuff from past experiences. So I would go and, not knowing anything, like stand up, sit down, kneel, Dominus Vobiscus, all that kind of stuff. Um, you know, After a while, though, like that's the first, second time I went, I was like, man, I tell you, like, it's just kind of giving me that little bit of emotional and just kind of gives me that little bit of shot in the arm, like, okay, let's get this next week going and let's see what happens, all that kind of stuff. And you get to the end of the week and you're just like, you're kind of tired, you're run down and stuff. And then you go to church and it's just like, yeah, I'm jazzed up. Let's do this. Let's go kick this pig kind of thing. So what did that look like for you, Josh?
Yeah. So great question. My mom, I have to start here just because I think it would make sense for some people. My mom was she was in a very physically and a verbally abusive relationship with my father, and she left when I was 4 with my sister, who was 3 years younger than me.
Okay.
And we came down here, and so I've been introduced to the church at a young age because my mom is a single mom now, right? So she left from Pennsylvania down to here, Florida, and so we are actually going to Trinity Church. And I remember it as a kid, and so I've been in church, my whole life from the kid stuff. And, but you eventually start running the streets, right? Your mom's working the jobs and she ain't really home. So you start running the streets. And I grew up and I've been saved on basketball courts, man. I've been saved everywhere. You know what I mean? And it really wasn't real. It was, I knew there was a heaven and a hell, and I just didn't want to go to hell. And I've always believed in that. But I didn't really know what exactly that was in Jesus. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, fast forward, I'm getting all these, I'm getting saved. So I'm in the military, and I'm like, man, I'm about to go to war. And if there is a heaven, if there is a God, a heaven and a hell, there's a very good chance that I could go to one of those places because I'm in the Army now, and we were in a time of war. So I got baptized again when I was in the Army, just like you guys. Like you guys, it sounds like you had a choice to go. We didn't. My drill sergeants, they were like, "You're going." Like that's their only time that they get a break from Joe, kind of thing. So they're like, "Y'all are going." There's no, you can go. You can close your eyes. You don't have to listen. So all of us were going. There was none of us that stayed back, and that's the way that went for us. So, but for me and my belief system, that worked. And so I ended up getting baptized in there, and I got a little Bible. And one of my friends, Sordo, who was in basic training with me, we ended up being in the same unit. He started taking me in with the Bible. And man, every night I got into this habit of just reading Psalms, and I don't know anything about anything. I don't know what's supposed to do. How am I supposed to be forgiven? I just don't know anything. I'm just reading. And so then once we graduate and everything, I start going to, I don't know. You start drinking with Joe and you start partying and you start doing all that. So my faith really wasn't established when I was in the military. I've been exposed to it, and it just wasn't established. And it wasn't really established until I got out. You know what I mean?
You say that, Josh. I can honestly really identify that because when I was in high school, right before I left for the military, I ended up being a practicing Catholic, and
I remember that picture of you actually going to your confirmation wearing that really dope ass suit, and your mom was like, she's like, "Oh, my baby, I'm so proud of my son."
I shook hands with the regional bishop for I
Yeah,
think it was the Tampa area, which he's
it's
based out of St. Pete or whatever.
the St. Pete diocese. Yeah,
And it's crazy, man. Like, cause like I said, practicing Catholic pretty much my entire time through high school. Went into the military. I kind of always figured like I got to do the right thing because God's watching. But again, it was one of those things of like I fell into the whole thing of like I am with the boys, I'm doing stuff, I'm drinking, joking, whatever. And when I got out, you know, I like to say to myself, the only reason I got saved is because I made a promise with God when I was over there in Iraq. Like, look, Lord, prove to me you're real. If you're really up there, you got to save my neck. And there were moments out there where, I'm and I'm gonna be honest. There were moments when we were out there that I'm positive something was meant for us, and it didn't happen.
yeah.
Amen.
And and when I got back home, I kind of started trying to go back into the routine, and then I had to stop and pause for a moment. I was like, you still remember that? You still remember that thing I said? Or yeah, you still remember that thing? Okay, so so
He just tapped me and said, "You're up there, buggy."
yeah. So I ended up going, and I ended up starting to get back into church, and my sister is who kind of really got me back into it. And I think right before
which one?
Nilka.
Yeah,
right before
that kind of fits.
right before my first son was born, I got water baptized, and it was a really profound moment. I got baptized with my mom. I got baptized with my wife Tish while she was pregnant with Jaden. So
That's cool.
That's why I always say that's my wonder boy. He's gonna be doing something great. I just don't know what it is. I don't even think he even cares. At least not now.
Stop, dude. I hear you talking. Go in there and wash your butts. Like, dude, listen. We'll have meetings twice a week, and he's just like, so we can have the.
Yeah.
Get in there and wash your butt. Like that's what you hear coming out of this dude across the thing. I'm like, come on, bro, come on.
Yeah.
But it's different though. I got a little girl, so like I have a sassy, going to be 9, going on 27-year-old princess. So it's I don't hear that locker room like type of stuff. So it's just like, ugh. So, but it's great, man.
And see, one thing I do want to emphasize though is there is religion and then there's a relationship, right?
Yeah,
and they're two different things.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Mac, what you experienced was religion, like the get up, sit, stand, kneel, all of that. Jesus said, "Who the Son sets free is free indeed."
Yeah.
And so he's about a relationship, right? The first and greatest commandment that he says to love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, and your soul. And the second one is like it, to love your neighbor as yourself, right? So God wants a relationship simply with you, with me, with Alamo. He wants a relationship, and he doesn't want religion, and I just wanted to say that, you know what I mean? Based off of what your experience, you have a relationship with Manny. It's the same thing, only you can have that with a sovereign and holy God.
Yeah. So, as I was saying, when it comes to me, Catholicism, wasn't bad. Let me try to find a good way to put this that doesn't seem disrespectful or anything. I just didn't start off and go through the whole process like most people do. Like you have to go to catechism classes, and like Manny, like I'm like Macho. I'm sure you've done before. Like you had to go through like the whole 9 yards, get through that all that stuff.
I was in my church's youth group. I was in all that stuff, doing all that stuff, getting confirmed and stuff.
So, and I was just like, it's funny. Like I relate a lot of things to humor. So like. Like all the jokes you hear about being married, they're funny because they're true. And like it reminds me of like Steve Harvey. He's like, Mom, going to church is too much. I'd rather just go to hell. It's just too much trouble. Like it's too much work. Don't I get credit for going last week? And like you had to find something fun. And then he's like, I found Sister Odell. Then I want to go to church all the time. But so I was like, I kind of felt like that a little bit. But what kind of changed the tide for me, when I was with my daughter's mother, when we were together, she was kind of like, hey, let's start going to church. And we ended up going to a really nice church out my way. And the biggest thing is like, it's non-denominational. And I didn't know all the differences and whatnot. And then like to get up there and to hear the pastor have a conversation that was about as frank and blunt and honest as two dudes talking. You can't talk to this man about being an alcoholic when you're addicted to watching pornography. I'm like, damn, did he just say porn in the church? Like, whoa. Yeah, let's talk about this.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. So like that kind of really got me kind of excited to go, like, to see what they talk about, this, that, and the other. We ended up stopped going after a while. I would try to catch it. They had they had outreach where you could like watch online. Like they would like broadcast some of the sermons and stuff online. So at least I could catch it that way. But it really, I'll tell you, man, it really just kind of changed my perspective on the whole thing. And I was just like, wow, like that's kind of enlightening. It's, it's not all doom and gloom and hell and fire and brimstone and all that kind of stuff. It's just like you said, you're having that relationship. And it's like the pastor over there, I think his name is Pastor Greg, him and his wife, and they've actually got a couple other branch churches offshoot down in like South County and some other areas and stuff. But like, it's a popular church. I mean, it's one of the bigger ones. I'm like, dude, are they going to fill this place up? Wow. Like it's crazy. But I mean, it was kind of like, it's that moment, that experience of going to that just really changed it. Like, I don't know where exactly, my religious leanings, or, it's kind of like you got the political spectrum. Like there's the same thing with the religion. You got people that are very, very, very devout, almost to the point of, you have the ones that go farther than that are kind of a little bit on that, what you could call like the tad bit extreme side of things. You have folks where it's just like, yeah, maybe he's there. I don't know. Hey, he might be there. He got me they stopped him from towing my car this week from being repossessed. Amen. So who knows? I mean, like I said, and especially now that, my daughter, she's kind of getting into things and whatnot. It's, I don't want to discourage her. I don't want to force her into it. I don't want to discourage her. I just kind of want to let her just be like, hey, go see if you like this. Go, go figure out if it's for you. I mean, it's like, I don't want to, somebody asked me like, what are you trying to push your kid into? I'm like, nothing. Like if they want to do it, you want to try swimming? We'll try swimming. You want to try softball? Cool. You want to try track and field? Awesome. You want to be an astronaut? All right, I'll get like 14 more jobs and we'll start saving up the money for that kind of stuff. But I mean, whatever the case may be, I don't want to discourage them from it. I don't want to pressure them into it. I just kind of want to maybe just kind of keep them in the rails of things, make sure they're not that little ideological bowling ball doesn't hit into one of the gutters or something. Just keep it on the straight and narrow till it hits the pins and hits home and stuff. But so, yeah, that's, that was kind of like my experience with it. Like I said, I don't know where I would fall, what alliance, where my, my perspectives of it would lean and whatnot. But I just think, there's something. I mean, there's somebody looking out for us. I mean, whether you call it karma, whether you call it whatever, I mean, there's something there that's, looking out for us and kind of helping to interact with everything. So I'm a hush for a minute. I've been talking for like 5 minutes straight. Y'all,
Josh, I got a question, brother. When you were specifically when you were overseas, was there any time when you witnessed, like, say, for example, maybe through one of your cohorts or one of your squad mates or whatever, was there any time where you kind of witnessed faith in action? Because I know, I mean,
that's a good question.
Just like, I think just like either one of us, like we go through some stuff when we're over there. So it's interesting to see things kind of diversely kind of play out. So in your experience, have you ever witnessed, like, somebody like really fall into their faith and things happen for him when in a combat situation?
Well, it's, you know what they say, right? There's no atheists in foxholes.
Yeah.
It's everybody in those moments will have a measure of some belief into something, right? Um, but for me to actually say that I seen it, someone's faith who I knew was a Christian, play out over there, um, I would say no. What I would say though
Gotcha.
is that we do, when you're over there, you do operate with a level of faith in either your equipment, your ability, your squad.
Yep.
Faith as in a religion, not so much, but a
Gotcha.
faith and a drive to get the mission done and completed. In that sense, yes. Um, because in a lot of ways, you have to trust what you just have to trust it. You can't stop going. You have to go. Like when you're there, the mission goes forward, right? Whether things are going to break, bruise, fall, whatever the case may be, you got to keep it moving.
That is so profound, dude. I've never thought about it that way. It's like you always, when you hear the word faith, you kind of automatically just kind of paint the picture of, talking about religion or your belief in the Almighty or whatnot. But that sounds so dumb for me to say this, but like faith in your fellow man, it's like, duh. Like, yeah. So in that
Mhm.
respect, then absolutely. I would consider myself, while I was over there, you'd have a lot of faith in the guys that you went on patrols with and this and that and the other. It's like,
Because you
man,
trust them. You're
yeah.
with them. You trust them. You have faith in them.
All those in the body are called together to do the Lord's work.
That's right. And I think that in some cases, like what we say, like for me, it's when I talk to somebody who literally, and see, you think, Mac, that something is out there. You're not really too sure what, but you do think that there is some divine, ethereal creator being out there. Is that fair enough to say?
Yeah.
There are some out there who don't believe that, who simply think that there's nothing, right? So, and so for me, I don't have enough faith to believe that nothing plus nothing equals something. Evolutionists and the Big Bang Theory and all of that. So when we say operate in faith, I don't think that it's always on a religious spectrum, because my kids have faith and trust in me as their father to provide for them and to do what they need to, right? And they trust me to a certain degree. This is why we throw our kids. This is why we say, hey, listen, I'm going to help you swim and just trust me. Will you just trust me? Oh, but I'm scared. Just trust me. So you're building that faith with your kids, right? And so that way they trust you. You know what I mean? And I think when it comes down to on a religious scale, what we're saying with faith is that we're putting our hope and our trust in a divine being versus each other and all of that. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense.
No, for sure. Yeah. For sure. It's amazing. Like, like I said, I hear faith and, besides, I think of one of three things. I think of, religion. I think of that awesome song from George Michael back in the late 1980s or 1990s. And then you think of, the faith you have in your parents and the faith you have in your comrades in arms, or just your friends, your family, and all that stuff. But that's probably the one that you kind of take for granted the most. Is like you just it's there. So hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. You kind of shut up, Macho. Just shut up.
No.
You're just like, he thinks I sound like Mario when I sneeze. Like, Luigi, get me attention. Anyway, jackass. No, but like it's funny because it's besides religion, for those of faith and that have some type of faith in a divine creator or almighty or whatever your particular title or picture for it is, you have the faith of your fellow man, like your spouse, your kids, or whatnot, and it's in my perspective, it's probably the one thing that we just take for granted the most because it's always there. I mean, yes, if you are devout in your fellowship and your beliefs of your faith, then yeah, that would be kind of on the same boat too. But for me, not being a regular churchgoer, I have my own beliefs. I believe that there is an almighty, person. Hell, when I was in high school, I was in Latin class. So like they had gods. You have the god of war. You have the god of religion. You have the god of this. So you had a multi um,
Yeah,
various
and there
deities
was
for all that kind of
Zeus. I
stuff.
mean, there was all
Yeah,
kinds of gods, right? That are man-made gods. That gods aren't saving anything, doing anything. They're
right.
just made-up gods. They used to sacrifice babies to Molech, right? It's
Yeah.
just this god, and they would sacrifice babies to it. They would throw them down in this hole, and then that was that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's pretty
so
messed up stuff. And then
it
when you look
is.
back in history, man, like it's
But see, the thing about faith, but the thing about faith in Christianity is it's not a faith that a man can muster up. That's the whole thing. Is the faith of a Christian comes from the Word of God, because Romans 10:17 tells us that faith cometh by hearing, and hearing comes by the Word of God. And so
amen.
for the Christian, our faith is not something we muster up on our own. I don't put my faith in. I mean, don't get me wrong. I put my faith in my wife when in things. I trust my wife. But when I put my faith in a God who can't fail, based off of what I believe, um, man, that's reassurance. That's a hope that never fails. That's a hope that never can fail. And so, even a measure of our faith that we get is given to us by God, because we're saved by grace through faith through Jesus alone. So we are saved by grace alone, through faith alone, through Christ alone. That's it. And so even the measure for any man to believe, or woman, child, any whatever you want to call it, in Christ, God has to do that. And so um, and I think that there is two different weighty of a thing here when we're talking about faith in Christ versus faith in myself. Because when I got out of the military is when things got bad, like for most, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you want me to, I can tell you how I came into the faith. If you want, if that's
Whatever you
okay.
feel
Absolutely.
comfortable telling us, brother.
Absolutely. And I'd
Yeah.
like to
Okay.
hear
So
at some point also how you were challenged on your faith too, because everybody I know, especially when you get deep into the word and you start studying really good, you start to get challenged by
yes.
a lot.
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. We'll get to that. So the truth is when I got out, like most of us, Joe is you're resilient. We were young. You don't go to sit call, and so I had no issues, right?
I swear to you, we just talked about this.
Yeah,
Wow.
no, I can tell you from your last episode you were talking about. But so you're a hard man, you're a hard individual. You just don't do that. And I think that way of thinking it works for the military, but it doesn't work for when you get out, because pride comes before the fall. And I think that most, if not all men, deal with that on a huge level. And when you come from being a warrior, that is almost ingrained into you that you just don't, right? You don't go to sit call, you don't complain, you don't talk to people about your issues and your problems.
Very
It's,
Spartan-esque.
well, the thing is that you don't, and when you do that though, you don't have an outlet, and so you carry this around, and you have no one to
Mhm.
talk to. You have no one to tell you it's going to be okay. You have your battle buddies that you're calling; they're just as messed up as you are, trying to give you advice. It doesn't work. And so I mean, like most people, I mean, I went to school, to be a massage therapist. I mean, my mom told me, like, you either need to go to school, or you need to get a job, but you can't just keep doing it. You can't just keep sitting around being depressed. You just can't do that.
Yeah.
So I decided to say, hey, I'll go to school to be a massage therapist of all things. I figured maybe it might relax me. You know what I'm saying? To just be in a more calm environment and whatever. And so on my way to school, like, you're swerving. You're trying to get out of the way of garbage, and because there's IEDs and stuff, they put that stuff in there. I'm
Mhm.
going into the school at Everest University. I mean, I'm scanning rooftops for snipers. I mean, I'm just on 10, you know. And some of that stuff still stays with me. Like, I'm still very aware, but I was always like that before. There's certain events I don't go out in, 4th of July, New Year's. I don't do that stuff anymore. Um, And so I got out, and not only was I dealing with that, but I got into a relationship, and I started drug dealing again. I started selling everything under the sun, just hustling. And I got involved with a married woman. And, you know, it was my first relationship. She was never mine to begin with. It's weird, pretty weird. But, man, I never had a relationship. But here we are. I got one with this married woman. This thing was weird. So we had a big split up. And after 2.5 years, she invited me to church. And she said, I think it'll be good for you. And da da da. So I said, no. And then she called me again. And then she invited me to church. And I said, look, man, like, I just want to, I miss you and I love you. I'm going to go see you. Like, I'm going to go to church because I miss her. I want to see her. So I go and I see her and everything. And her husband's there, you know, and her husband doesn't know nothing. So it's a weird thing that's going on. But the more and more I kept coming to see her, the more and more I started hearing the messages, you know, and I started seeing the errors of my ways. And because I felt so trapped, I felt so broken, I felt so lost, I felt so without a hope. I felt like there was some of the things that I've done. How do you come back from that? You know what I'm saying? And so there, I'm in this place, and I hear it, and the time was now. You know, I heard it very clear. And when I gave my life to Christ that day, it was real. And I haven't looked back ever since. But this is not to say I haven't been without extreme difficulty, extreme struggles. Even being a Christian. In fact, most people who come to Christianity think that because you have a relationship with God, you're not going to suffer in this life. In fact, He promises the opposite. We will suffer in this life just because it's life. We live in a fallen world, right? But He promises to be with us through it. And that has carried me through even up until this point now that I'm talking to you here, you know? So that's the short of it. That's how I came to know Christ. And I started, this was December of 2010. So December of 2010 is when I got baptized. I gave my life to Christ for real. And man, it was a hard road. You know, I was clean for 9 months and I backslid for 3 months. And then I got clean again. You know, I was homeless twice. I stayed in the church. I've eaten from the food pantry that they would, you know, we distribute food. So I was on the food pantry. It was just rough, man, because the drug money wasn't coming in anymore, you know, and how the faith plays out, Manny, and through this whole thing is that I knew one thing, regardless of it all. I knew that God was real, and I knew that I had to put myself all in. So I stopped hanging out with friends. Because you are who you surround yourself with, you know. I'm old enough and wise enough to know that. I've always been that way.
Have
So
you
what I did,
have you been fortunate enough to hear what Tisha says about that all the time? She said something along the wall to
My
me.
wife.
Yeah,
yeah,
she said she's like, change your circle, change your life, and I was just like, yo, like that was just one of them things. Like it just
yeah,
hit like a sledgehammer. I'm like,
You are the sum of the 5 people you hang with
that's
yeah,
right.
and I
by
think
nature.
yeah, and
Yeah, you
I
are who
heard
you
that
surround
the first
yourself with,
time, and I
man.
was like, wow,
Yeah, who you
good
hang out
stuff.
with, it says a lot about who you are, right? And we have to be picky these days about who we give our time, you know, our attention to, because if we're not careful, we waste our time doing things that, you know, put it like this: bad company corrupts good morals, right? And so I think that for me, I couldn't hang around a drug dealer anymore. I couldn't hang around all of that whole, because I have a new life now. I have a new walk. So they respected it too, you know. And so, man, coming here now that I'm in the church, I'm down here every day, right? I got fired from my job, no job skills, all that stuff, and I'm down here every day, man, serving. I'm in prayer meetings with grown men, pastors and elders of the church, and I'm learning from them. So I've always around these older men, even my whole life, but now I'm in the church and I'm getting real wisdom. And I had to balance that out too, you know, Manny, just to answer your question. You ask guys questions and you hear things that they're talking about things on a level that you're just not on. So you learn a lot, you know. But at the same time, you still have life to deal with. And a lot of these people,
Yep.
they haven't been through the things that you've been through or seen the things that you've seen, you know. And so how do I deal with those things? And, you know, God has started putting people in my life. And that was just that, man. Every step of the way, I had a mentor. Someone just came into my life, and we just ended up doing life, and it was always with someone older. And so, how faith has operated in my life from dealing with Iraq and just brokenness. I come from a broke home. You know what I'm saying? How does faith help you in those moments? How does Scripture help you in those moments? How do you overcome those objections, right? And I think that the biggest thing that we can understand about in any situation is when you don't know what to do, don't do anything at all. And I think that if I can say anything to anyone, it would be, if you don't know what to do, don't do anything at all. And what I mean by that is I'm not talking about if you're talking suicide or any of those things. You need to get real help. But we tend to make things a lot worse when we don't know what to do, right? So we put into action what we don't know what to do, but we're going to go ahead and do something in hopes that it will make something better, but it ends up making it a lot worse. And now we just dug the trench a little bit deeper, and in our humanness and our desperation, we just keep digging and digging and digging, right?
Kind of like the guy in the sand pit.
Yeah. And so, to overcome those things is, one, you can't quit and you can't question your faith. Although I do question my faith at times. Well, not anymore so much these days, but at that time, because you're young, you don't know, you're going based off of what you believe. And when you're young, it's just like, there's a whole spiritual thing that you begin to see. At least I did. There's a spiritual war that we're in, right? We don't struggle against flesh and blood, right? So when people cuss me out or whatever the case may be, it's like, we don't struggle against flesh and blood. You know what I mean? We struggle against principalities and spirits of wickedness and darkness and seated in heavenly places. And so when you understand these things, it's easier to go about your life that way when you're revealed the truth of things. You know what I mean? I hope that helps, Manny, some, unless you have a more direct question that I can peel the layers back with.
Oh no, I think that answered it perfectly.
Well, I think, but here's the thing. Here's what I'm gonna tell you. One of the things that helped me a lot is you have to forgive yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can forgive everyone. We can forgive. We can be forgiven. But most people, have you forgiven yourself for what you've done? Because what we know of forgiveness is forgiveness sets you free, according to the forgiveness of the Bible, right? And so we're forgiven because of what Christ did on the cross, and because we have been set free, right? And so if I forgave myself, man, that was a moment where it was like it just went on, the light bulb. I was like, man, I forgave my dad. I forgave all these people. I'm forgiven now because I'm in Christ, and he died for that. And man, I got to forgive myself. How do I even go about doing that? So that was really the journey. Is for me to spend time with Josh, go out on a date with Josh, and search my own heart. Get to a place where I'm journaling and I'm writing this stuff out, and I can really compose where I'm at in my thoughts. And then I can say, man, I just need to forgive myself for these things, right? And it's so freeing. It really is, because now you take the guilt and the condemnation and the shame out of it, just out of it, right? And so that was something that I did that really helped me. And that was a focal point, is learning how to forgive myself for these things,
That was some awesome input, man. Like I took so much out of that conversation. I have a quick question that I was kind of popped up in my head.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say hypothetically you have someone, we could say like maybe like myself, where they want to explore, what their faith would potentially be, what their relationship with God would be, the Almighty, the
Mm-hmm.
supreme architect, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
So there's our friend Brian. Well, he went to when he was going to college, he went to St. Leo, which is up there in St. Leo, Florida, just north of Dade City. And one of the requirements, and if you're not if someone's not familiar with that college, they actually have like they have a monastery there where they actually have like Benedictine monks and stuff.
Mhm.
So it's very much kind of a part of the college and this, that, and the other. But you're also required to take at least one class in regards to religious studies. And one of the things that he told me that just really stuck with me is that there are 30,000 different forms of religion, like different permutations. Like you might have, you know, not just Catholicism versus Protestantism versus,
Mhm.
Latter-day Saints versus whatever the major religions are, but then you have like the little micro like divisions in between that.
Sure.
What, being a person of faith, as we've talked about tonight, what advice would you give to somebody if they're wanting to explore that road, trying to figure out what's what? Like, I know a lot of people have said, well, I started off with Catholicism, but I kind of just moved on to something else or went to this type of church. What would you say to somebody looking to get started?
Mhm. So because people are so complex, it's never that easy. I think you have to determine what it is that you're searching for, what questions you have, and then, for example, is Jesus the true God? Is he a living God? Is he for real? I think that you would need to go to a non-denominational Christian church, or a Christian church. And you can go to Baptists and all of that. And the thing is with Catholicism, and this is no disrespect, but it's just the truth, man. It is full of idolatry. It is full, like, you pray to Mary, and I'm sorry if you guys are Catholic and you're listening to this. The truth is, Mary doesn't hear you, because to be absent from the body is to be in the presence of the Lord, but they are not in the Lord themselves. They don't hear your prayers. Um, Jesus says, "I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father but by me." Right? And so you have to identify what it is you're like. Monks are far from a Christian religion. You know what I'm saying? So if you're going to go down Buddhism, I think you have to ask yourself open, honest questions, and you have to be open to be confronted with answers that you may not really like if you're going to go down the road of religion, right? But again, Jesus wants a relationship, not religion. So I guess the easiest thing that I can tell anybody, because I think it's all starts around this, like, Mac, even with you, right? Like, who is God? I believe there's something there. Who is he? Where do I start? How do I know this is true? God reveals himself to you, right? And one of the things is, if you want to know that the Bible is true, is study prophecy. Study prophecy. Prophecy in the Bible has been fulfilled every step of the way, at the exact moment, at the exact time.
And we're talking about historically
right,
lining up. It's
historically.
when you get into it, yeah.
Here's something super easy. If anybody wants to look this up, you can look at the Euphrates River, and there's prophesied that the Euphrates River will begin to dry up when the end times, when we are there, when Jesus returns. He's going to return, and the Antichrist is going to be coming, and the end of the world, the end of the age is going to happen. The Euphrates River is going to dry up. Just look at, you can Google it right now. The Euphrates River is drying up. Okay. So prophecy, not to mention that the Bible is a historical document, right? It's not just a book. It is a library of different books. So this is a historical document that is to be true.
I think it's like 4 different languages though, right, Josh? Like from Greek, Hebrew, Aramaic, right?
Yep. So the Old Testament was Hebrew. The New Testament was written in Greek and Aramaic. So yeah, it spans over, I mean, we're talking, gosh, the Babylonian, the first temple was 586 BC. I mean, we're talking, this stuff is a historical document. Jesus, a historical figure. Now we know that Jesus is a Yeshua, right? Is actually the Yeshua HaMashiach, right? The Messiah. But Yeshua is a common name back in those days, and there are a lot of Yeshuas who have been crucified. But Josephus, who was a historian who never really said that he was a Christian or not, writes about Jesus going to the cross and all of these events. Jesus appears to the disciples for 40 days, 40 days after his resurrection from the grave. You think that all of that region who knew who Jesus was didn't see him, and no one discredited it? And so I would say that if somebody's going to be on this pursuit for God, is to look at the historical facts because
Yes.
it's truth. It's
And
truth, and you can't deny that. And you can't deny that. You can't
and
deny
I
the
would
fact.
say, probably you would probably agree with this, Josh. One of the best, I think, in all honesty, one of the best books to look at in, if you were to say, is out of the Old Testament, it would
Mhm,
be the book of Daniel,
mhm.
where historically you can see where, you know, things are alluded to in the beginning of in the beginning chapters, but in the later chapters you see how it aligns with historical events that have happened throughout history.
Sure.
All you have to do is
The
just look back.
Holocaust,
Hmm.
right? I mean, so all this stuff is there.
Rise and fall of Rome, the Persians, the Greeks,
Yeah.
the Greek Empire through Alexander,
Listen,
all of that.
if we found Noah's Ark, right? Just that alone, you know what I mean? Like, there's too much truth that we're discovering, that the Bible, like science actually proves that the Bible's real in many ways, you know? So my suggestion, Mac, in short, would be if someone is the God of the Christian Bible, right? If somebody's wanting to pursue that, one, and most definitely one, go to a non-denomination, or you can go to the Baptist Christian church. And I would say, I would suggest you start looking at prophecy and the historical side of it, because we as people, it's hard to believe something you can't see, sense, or feel, right? But when you look at hard facts and you can say, man, and you start reading the words of Jesus, you start reading the Bible, and you're genuinely in pursuit, God, I promise you, will show up. God will reveal himself, because Jesus said that I've come that none should be lost. I have come to seek and to save that which is lost. So God, if you're really in pursuit with your open heart, God will make himself known. He will, 100%, because he loves so much. And he wants to end it with all your listeners. Now, we want to go back and say that if you are in Catholicism, that's a blanket statement, because based off of what they do, they believe in like transubstantiation when they take communion, right? They believe that these elements actually turn into the actual blood and the actual body of Christ. That's cannibalism. God is not about that, right? So there's a lot of things wrong with that. So I would just say, I'm not saying that Catholicism or those who are Catholics are going to go to hell. I'm just saying that there are some things that are questionable that they're into, that the Bible really warns about.
So being kind of, I don't want to call myself the outsider here, but the person of, not as much devoutness in their faith. I'll
Sure.
flip this back over to you, Alamo.
Yo.
So you talk about growing up and going through the catechism classes and everything, and you were very much a devout Catholic at one point in your life. What
Mhm.
did you have to do to relearn or supposedly unlearn when you went to like the church you're at now, at Cornerstone over in Deltona? Like what was like the transition? Like what did you have to do to kind of get used to that? What did you have to kind of refigure out or relearn, or what kind of stuff?
I'm gonna say that I really had to get into my head that you know, there's a lot less to do with works. As we say in the church, there's a lot less to do with works. Um, that's not to say that works are not, part of, doing something for this, doing something for God Himself. Much of that comes through, through grace and through faith and, through Jesus Himself. But um, you know, I had to really learn that it's not about what I do more so than it is that or I should say that it's more so about, you know, how I lean into my faith and how I lean on, God, and how I, study the word and lean into, you know, allowing the spirit to kind of work through me. Is as how I feel, at least that's how I've seen it anyway.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
mean, we have a lot of elders, and well, not a lot of elders, but we do have elders here, and that a lot of people. What I would say is they come out of that that religion space, right?
Yeah.
I would say, and based off of what Manny was saying, was what he's meaning is that you're not going to get saved by Jesus because of what you do,
Yeah.
because that's the purpose of Christ, right?
Mm-hmm.
No one is good enough. In fact, the Bible says that there are none that are good. You know, when
Not
people
one.
say that, why does bad things happen to good people? You can't name me one good person, because none of us are, right? And what that is because of our sinful nature, and because of that, we've been separated from God. Now, that's the point of Christ, and the reason why this is so good is because God put it in our lap. He gave us the Ten Commandments, but He says that
Yeah.
if we break one, we break them all, right? So it was an impossibility that anyone could uphold the law of God, the perfect standard law of God. No one could. And so what God has done through Jesus is that Jesus held the law. He lived the life perfectly, and he went and he who knew no sin became sin for us and died on the cross for the forgiveness of our sin. He took our punishment. He has taken the very wrath of God upon himself. And what is beautiful about this whole thing is that none of us can boast, because this is a work that God has done and God has done alone. And that's why it's
Yeah.
grace. Through faith, we are saved through Jesus Christ, because Jesus lived that life. So his righteousness is imputed to us as if we've never sinned a day in our life. We can stand before God clean, forgiven, and pure, made right with a sovereign and holy God, and because of what Jesus did on the cross. And then on the third day, he rose from the grave. He conquered sin and conquered death. And then now, because of that, we who have believed in Christ and we put our faith in Christ will also live after death. We will not taste the second death, which would be an eternity in hell, which was not created for people. That place was created for Satan and his followers.
Mhm.
However, because God is a righteous judge, he has to sovereignly judge correctly and rightly. And that's the punishment for sin, for breaking his law. We get punished when we break the laws here on earth. This is why I don't understand when people get so like, I don't understand why God is this, that, and the other. But our judicial system itself, if I break the law here, I'm gonna go. I have to pay the price for it. If I speed, I get a ticket. If I murder someone, I go to prison. There's different
Mhm.
weights and sentences even, and that's the same thing with God. And so He's gonna judge sin one day, and then He says that He's gonna make a new heaven and a new earth one day where there will no sin will not be, the moth will not destroy, there will be no rust, the thief will not steal. But we have to wait till that day, and our faith is what's going to carry us through until that time. And so I can't boast about any of this, and Manny, you can't. No one can boast. That's what's beautiful about this whole thing, man, is that no one can say, "Hey, listen, I have more money than you, so I'm getting in. I lived a better life than
Exactly.
you. I'm getting in. I've done this to the T. I've done." So it's based on no one and everything that God has done, and so everyone's on the same playing field. That's what's beautiful
Hmm.
about it. I'm not better. Listen, what I'm doing right now is simply a call on my life from God. If you would have said that I would be a pastor, that I would be preaching the gospel, that I would have kids and a wife, and I mean, that just was so not my life,
Yep.
But when you find purpose in God, and that's the biggest thing, is that people want to know what their purpose is. Why am I here? Why was I created? I got to be doing something more than this.
Right.
Yep.
And with us, the reason why it is this way is simply because God has designed it this way, because God has created us individually with a purpose in mind. And outside of that, we'll never find our purpose and we'll never live out our true purpose, because our purpose is found in God and through Christ alone. Who his goal is to turn us into the image of his son. And what I would also say, now that I'm talking about this, if anyone is looking into getting into religion, focus on God. Because if you watch me any long enough, any amount of time, I'm gonna fail. And that's just because all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. I don't like to, but everyone does. Even me. Like I'll stub my toe and I'll say a cuss word. It happens, bro. Like it's just because I have a nature. You know what I'm saying? So what happens is that, man, I don't like Christianity because I saw this Christian do this, I saw this Christian do that, and the reality is that
There's a lot of that.
I'm no different than anyone. I can lie with the best of them. The issue is that I have found, or God has found me, and so my life is now changing. And so when you look at me, it's like, man, if that's Christianity, I don't want it. Um, that's the wrong way to look at it, because God is perfect and He's perfectly love, and He's also a judge, right? Um, so that's the one thing I would also say. Don't use your past experiences to smear the name of Jesus or smear God. Look at God, because anytime we're dealing with people, there's going to be inconsistencies, and the church is no different. Yeah, we're a hospital for the sick, but we're a bunch of broken people trying to figure this thing of life called, or this thing called life out, and I'm going to get on your nerves sometimes, and you're going to get on mine, but that doesn't mean I don't love you, right? It just means that you get on my nerves. We're in the family of God. Family fights, right? From time to time. So those two areas, I think, are going to be so huge in someone's pursuit, I think, is to not let the church hurt or the experiences smear God. Let God be God in your life, not your image of God through people, right? Because I think that we can never live up to this standard. That's why we have the Holy Spirit, right? And living inside of us. So that, and also just study the facts. Just look at the facts and ask God to reveal Himself to you openly, wholeheartedly, and I promise you He will, because He says that He will make Himself known, and that's part of the blessing itself, because He didn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Man, I feel uplifted already, man. Like this is a great talk. Alamo, you have anything else you want to add?
Nah, I just want to thank my brother Josh for being on here, man.
Yeah,
Josh
thanks
said
for having me.
this has been a very
I hope it's
very
what you were looking
insightful.
for.
No, hey, listen, a lot of times we have people on. It's like we kind of know where it's gonna go, and 10 to 25%, but it's that 80 to 75 to 90% that we don't know. Where it's like this is where the magic happens. Like you just
That's
get to see
right.
somebody for who it is and whatnot, and it's like, we can't. It's kind of been working. It's like, listen, it's gonna happen the way it happens. So draw whatever
Sure.
comparisons you want to life right there with that. But
Mhm.
Josh,
Yeah.
thank you so much for being on the show, man. I really appreciate the conversation we've had. Thank you for some wonderful advice and insight. And yeah, this has been a fantastic talk, man. I
Yeah.
greatly appreciate it, brother.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And I want to thank you guys for having me. And listen, just don't give up. Whatever it is, just don't give up. Just keep pressing on, keep pressing, soldiering on, keep pressing through it. And again, if you go down this faith journey and finding Jesus, He will make Himself known, and man, He will save you. He will cleanse you. He will save you right now. But you just have to accept Him and believe Him into your heart. And I wanted to suggest that you get down to a good Christian church. I don't have a whole bunch. I don't know where your audience is at, man. But if you're in Deltona, come check us out at Cornerstone. You can come see me. I'd love to talk to you, and we can get you connected and plugged in and down the right way.
Good
For
stuff.
sure. Mm-hmm.
You should when you get a chance to talk to Manny in person, tell him to tell you about our analytics on viewership. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Like there's instances I feel like, what?
Yeah.
They're watching from where?
Oh,
Are
yeah.
you
That's cool,
sure?
right? Yeah,
They
that's
caught our
cool.
show from there. It's like
Yeah.
it's one of those things where like we're still growing into this. This is
Mhm.
our third season we've been doing this, and we're kind of coming to the end of the season. We have like I think 7 more episodes before we close up season 3. And what did you just do, Alamo? Oh, you're talking about that. So yeah, okay,
Yeah.
just put your big ugly mug up there. That's cool. Yeah, there
Just
we
Yeah.
go.
trying to
Thank you.
hold on. I was
It's all
trying to
good.
And
adjust
for the
it.
record, one last time, if you are Catholic, I mean no offense. I'm just keeping it real. I have no issue with you. It's just we may disagree on some doctrines there, but
But
that's
you know
okay.
what? Like
We're friends.
that's how you learn. Like one of the
Yeah,
it
yeah.
brings up it just made me remember an experience I had. There was, and I got a picture of it somewhere in my photo album from when I was in Afghanistan. We had an Air Force Catholic chaplain visit our little fob where we were at.
Mm-hmm.
So he's sitting there, nice gentleman. I think his name was I think it was McGonagall or something. It kind of stereotypically Irish. It's like, go figure.
Oh,
But
hey.
I'm gonna leave that alone. So we had this Catholic priest, and then we had one of our interpreters named Abdul, who was very much devout in his Muslim faith.
Mm-hmm.
And they were sitting there, like we had our little, our ECP right there, the entry control point. They're sitting there, and dude, they sat there for, I want to say, like 30, 45 minutes, maybe an hour. And they were just sitting here checking the boxes, talking about the difference between Catholicism and the Muslim faith, and checking and like looking at all the compare and contrast and stuff. And I was just like, dude, this is awesome. We're having an open, frank discussion about the differences in religions. Like, why can't we just do this
Mm-hmm.
all the time? If we could have a discussion, and I
Sure.
don't mean to get into politics, but if people get into politics could do this too. It's like, if we could just sit down and just talk about the differences. Okay, hey, you're here, I'm here. Let's meet in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get together and feel all right and meet in the middle, and everything's gonna be just fine. All
Mm-hmm.
them great reggae songs that say that kind of shit. Like, let's
Mm-hmm.
just do this. Come
Mm-hmm.
on, people. It's like
But
crazy.
the thing is that our beliefs is what is actually causing the divide.
Yes.
And so there can't be a kumbaya because our beliefs are they're too extreme.
Yeah.
Now, what I can say is I agree with you. We most definitely can have conversations and to try to see where like I respect where you're at, Mac. You don't believe what I believe, right?
Right.
And that's okay. I hope that one day you would, for the sake of your soul. But I can't do that for you. I can't make that. But what I can do is pray for you, right?
Sure.
And so as long as we're able to have this conversation, you're not bothering me. I'm not bothering you. We still friends. We walk away from it, right? We agree to disagree. But with certain extremists like religions and stuff, they just can't coincide. They just can't.
Yeah.
They just can't. And so that's why even in the end times, there's going to be a one world religion, right? That's what they say. So when you start seeing this stuff start ramp up and you start seeing this one world currency, take it from me. That's the mark of the beast. And you get that, you're done. There's no coming back from that, right? And so that's why it's going to be your faith is going to play such a role in these years to come. And I'm not saying I know when, because no man knoweth the time or the hour that the Son is coming back. However, He's given us signs to look at to His coming, birth pains, if you will. And our responsibility is I don't force people into the kingdom or none of that stuff, man. We just try to love people and tell them the truth of it all. And sometimes the truth hurts, if not all the time,
Yeah. Well, again, Josh, thank you again for agreeing to be on the show. We appreciate the conversation we've had.
Sure,
this has been wonderful. I appreciate the insight, the advice, and just the conversation. I mean, like you said, if we could just have a conversation like this, where we can agree to disagree, but still kind of see where that person's at. Like, that's what it's all about. And that's
sure,
I'm going to definitely, like I was saying last week, I'm going to go back and like watch this again. When you're doing the interview in the heat of the moment, you don't really catch on all the things that is being discussed and talked about. But I'm going to go back and watch this and be like, yeah, like you said, good point.
I'm going to, I'll be following up with you too, Mac.
Sure.
I have
good
some
stuff.
questions for you.
No worries, man. I appreciate it. All right, so
yeah,
Josh, we're gonna put you.
Manny knows what it is.
Yeah.
We'll have a conversation, brother. It's all good.
All good. So we're gonna put you backstage for a minute while we close the show out, and we'll be back in a minute. Thanks again, Josh. We appreciate it.
Y'all be safe. All right.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. Watch your six.
That's a good one, dude. You're like, yeah, I did a good one. He's like, who got this one? This guy. Oh, that's funny. So
stuff, brother.
Let's wrap this up. For those of you that are visiting for the first time, the way our show got started is kind of not a happy story. We had a good friend of ours named John who we used to work with, Alamo and myself, and John was a good dude. He was hilarious. He was just the kind of guy who give shit off his back. He was just, he was a funny fucker. And we had so much dumb fun at work
Yeah.
that I'm surprised we didn't get in more trouble. So we Alamo and I did an event for his lovely wife Tisha, who has her own YouTube thing going on. Check out Flipside Mentorship, by the way. That is her channel.
Flipsidementorship.com.
There you go.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. No, but it's not a shameless plug. It's a good plug because like she's doing wondrous things over there. Like she's got it going on. So, and that's not just saying it because I love my
already doing
over there.
stuff with the city of Deltona. She's rocking it, man. She's scared at the same time, but she's rocking it right now. She even got I think she even got some contacts with the city of Deltona police, or not police, fire chief, and
nice.
The head of the president of the firemen's association here.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah. So
good stuff. But there are good things happening over there. Check out flipsidementorship.com. Tisha is awesome. I'm not just saying that because it's Alamo's wife. I'm saying that because that's legit stuff. Like she's doing wondrous things over there. Go check it out. It's awesome. But we did an event for her a while back, a couple years ago, and we had a blast. Alamo and I, just having been friends in high school and all that stuff. And Alamo calls me up. He's like, "Dude, we need to do something together." I'm like, "What do you want to do, man?" He's like, "You just want to hang out?" He goes, "No, like we should do something a little bit more permanent." And I'm like, okay, like you're already married. So that's off the table. He goes, "No, jackass, we do something like a podcast." I'm like, "I don't know nothing about a podcast." He goes, "Dude, they put a monkey in space. How hard can it be?" And I'm just like, "Okay, we're gonna eat those words, but whatever." So fast forward about a month or so, and I discovered through a friend of John's that he had committed suicide, and it really just fucking took the wind out of my sails because I was like, fuck, here's a guy that we used to work with. It's this statistic right here of 22 a day is shitty enough when it's 22 people that you've never met that have served your country, 22 veterans a day. But when it's somebody it just sucks that much worse. And
5 and counting on my end. So yeah, it sucks, bro.
And, unfortunately for John, he chose to solve a temporary problem with a permanent solution. That's something you hear us say quite a bit. So I called Alamo and I was like, "Hey man, did you hear about John?" He's like, "No, man, I need to reach out to him." I was like, "You can't. He's gone." So, after, like picking up his jaw off the floor, I told Alamo, I was like, "Dude, I'm in." I was like, "Let's do a podcast. How hard can it be?" So the whole kind of progenesis of this starting was, out of losing a good friend of ours who we will 100% own up to the fact that we fell out of touch with. And that's, that happens. Unfortunately, this is the result of that, is that he had some demons that unfortunately took over, and, the rest is kind of history. So we started the Battle Bros podcast with that in mind. We came up with the Battle Bros code as a way to just kind of keep yourself in the fight. There are some things that happen in life that you can prepare for, some things you can't. It just kind of depends on how you handle those things. There's a great poem by Charles Swindoll called Attitude that my grandfather and my dad both made me kind of read when I was younger. And one of the ending lines of the poem says, quote, "I'm convinced that life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you react to it." And there's a lot of horse sense in that. It's like you can't control what happens, but you can dictate how you steer or right the ship once it lists to one side, or maybe hits an iceberg or something like that. So, as I said, we came up with the Battle Bros code. So if you can remember the letters BROS, you're going to be okay, because it's 4 easy things to remember to kind of keep yourself, as Josh said, to keep yourself soldiering on. So be tenacious. No matter what you do in life, do it to the utmost and to the fullest of your abilities. Whether it's being having a relationship with God, being a parent, being a service member, being a mentor, being a leader, whatever that looks like, whatever form or shape that takes, do it to the fullest and don't slack on that responsibility. Ron Swanson said, in a quote, "Don't half-ass two things, whole ass one thing. Okay. Again,
That's still
a lot of
cute.
horse sense in that. It's just stupid, but you're gonna remember the stupid stuff more than you think you will. Okay,
Yeah.
straight up. Don't half-ass two things, whole ass one
Whole
thing.
ass one thing.
Okay, yeah. R. Sorry, damn it. I was doing so good, I just lost it right there at the end. R.
Squirrel.
Squirrel. Huh? Refuse to surrender. No matter what happens in life, there's going to be times where things happen where you get knocked down a little bit. Like Josh mentioned, he had sobriety for 9 months, and he started to backslide for about 3 months, and then he got sober again. He refused to surrender. Okay, same thing there. No matter what happens, you can get your face knocked down. You fall off the, you fall down the rappel tower. You fall out on a road march. You don't qualify the first time when you're doing your basic rifle marksmanship. Okay, guess what? Don't let it beat you. Keep going. Don't suck at it, and keep trying your hardest. Refuse to surrender. Okay, no matter what that looks like. Oh, obliterate your obstacles. Kind of goes along with the last one. No matter what happens, just understand you may have to, get some things out of the way in order to accomplish your goals or hit your objectives. You come to a wall. Sometimes you have to dig under the wall. Sometimes you have to scale the wall. Sometimes you just have to go around said wall. Sometimes you have to take a trail off in the woods for several hundred yards and then come back and put you on the other side of the wall. Whatever the case may be. Sometimes it's a lot more fun. Sometimes you get to obliterate your obstacles by fast roping out of a little bird or a blackhawk and doing some hua stuff with a holstered attack dog. Shout out to our buddy Kyle. Sometimes you get to breach the door with some C4s in Bangalore. Sometimes you get to do what this guy did and just back a striker into stuff. And hey, Sarge,
yeah.
we made a hole. There's a striker size hole there.
Heck yeah.
We can send the whole platoon in about 30 seconds. It's awesome. Whatever that looks like, just remember to keep yourself on the path of accomplishment of what you're trying to achieve. Obliterate your obstacles. Don't ever stop trying to hit the OBJ on that one. Hit the X. Lastly, and most importantly, seek out help in a time of need. S. As you've heard us say many times in the show, we would love it if we didn't have this show. If Josh, or excuse me, that's incorrect. If John was able to get some help and talk to somebody, if we didn't do the show and it meant John was still around, I'd take that in a heartbeat. That's not the world we live in. John has unfortunately left us, and that's a shame because he was a guy worth knowing. He was. Every time I think about John, we just giggle. Alamo and I will sit here and talk about John's story, and Alamo does a really good impersonation. He's like, "Dude, let's go get a beer," and he just sounds, and it sounds just like him, and it's just like, damn it, it's so good.
It's good old John, man.
But just remember, help comes in a lot of different shapes, forms, and methods. It doesn't matter where it comes from, as long as it comes from a place of goodness. It could be going to church, like Josh mentioned. Finding Jesus and putting him in your life, and all that kind of stuff. It could be talking to somebody. There's been plenty of times where this gentleman and myself have been on the phone with each other in the wee hours of the morning, where something was off, we weren't doing good, and we needed help. So we called each other and we're like, "Hey, man, I'm not in a good place. Cool, let's talk about it. Let's figure out what's going on."
You sleepy there, Pookie?
Dude, I'm going up. I'm going on 15 hours of being awake, dude. I was up at 6 o'clock this morning, so it's more like 16 hours. So,
rare.
But do what you got to do, man. Don't refuse to surrender.
That's right.
So, whatever the case may be, if it's reaching out to a counselor, if it's reaching out to a friend, a family member, a service member you were in the military with, whatever the case may be, reach out and get some help. If you feel like there isn't anybody that you can call on to help, there are other resources out there. There's the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 1-800-273-8255. Or if you want to keep it real simple, 1-800-273 and spell the word TALK, T-A-L-K. You can call that same hotline by dialing the prefix 988. That's 988. 988. That's I believe as of June of this last year, which is great because
Yes.
you can call either of those numbers. You can text 988, and they can have somebody send a text message. This is how technology has kind of advanced us and allowed us to get access to a lot of different things. But you get on there, you tell somebody you need help, and they have trained professionals 24 hours a day, 7 days a week that will talk to you, get you some help you need. Everybody deserves to have their story told. Everybody deserves to be here to tell said story. So don't feel like there's no one here for you. There's always somebody. You may not be readily available or readily accessible, but hey, put in the work, do the steps, and somebody can get to you to talk to you. So if you can remember those 4 things: be tenacious, refuse to surrender, obliterate your obstacles, and seek out help in a time of need, I promise you're going to be okay. All right, so I'm going to hand it off to Alamo here. He's going to close it out, and then we're going to wrap it up for the
night. Excuse me. Jeez. If you'd like to go ahead and catch us over on the social media, you can catch us over at facebook.com/battlebros.podcast. You can also catch us on the Instagram at battlebros_podcast. You can find us over on the Twitter. All you got to do is look us up under BattleBros at BattleBros PC. If you'd like to contact us, you can contact us on either one of those platforms, to include our Gmail, which is battlebrospc@gmail.com. If you'd like to catch us on the audio platforms, I recommend that. Just especially if you're in vehicles all day, don't watch us on YouTube. That's kind of illegal. But definitely definitely listen to us. You could do that over on Spotify. You could do that on Anchor, which is now, I believe, Spotify for podcasters. Interestingly enough,
they have remarketed and rebranded. So
yeah. Correct. You can do that on you could do that on iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and pretty much anywhere you actually catch podcasts. We are streamlined now, folks.
We're out there. We're semi-famous. By that I mean a little bit.
Semi-famous. If you would like to catch us on a platform other than, say, the YouTube, which you'd be watching us on right now, you can also catch us on rumble.com. And in the search bar, go ahead and search Battle Bros, all one word, lowercase, and you'll find not only our channel, but you'll find every single episode that gets uploaded right onto the YouTube right there every single week. Other than that, I mean, I don't really got nothing else, brother.
Cool. Sorry. Just check my phone's over here pinging a little bit. So thanks again to everybody out there for watching, whether it's your first time, whether it's your second or subsequent times for checking us out. We are humbly appreciative of you giving us support and love. Just remember, it's not always about you. It's about the person after you down the line that might need to hear the message.
That's right.
Special shout out again to Josh Rhoads for coming on the show and being our guest host, special guest, and sort of pseudo guest host for helping us drive the conversation. Thank you so much, brother. We appreciate
that. And also enduring these knuckle dragon. But yeah,
but he's pretty much a dragger himself, man.
Yes, so he kind of gets where we're coming from.
He can translate, absolutely.
So,
yep. Thank you again to everybody. This is there's times when I complain about doing this show, when I am like literally having to suck down like monster after monster of caffeine. They're like, people look at me going, "Your cardiologist is like, that's not healthy." I'm like, I survive on caffeine and rage, so I've got the one part. I just need to supplement the other. But like I said, because of this guy right here, getting on here with very little prep time and just being like, dude, what do we got going on? It's like, oh, this, and like just getting jazzed up to do the show. It is, not trying to be weird, dude, but I want to tell you, like having you as a co-host and a partner, man, this is like the best thing since sliced bread. So thank you so much for getting us into this into the deep end of the pool, so to speak. I am I'm very grateful for that. So thank you. Thank you to everybody that's helped us out down the road. Previously down the road, Brian, Gino, Tisha, all the vets we've interviewed. Thank you to everybody. I'm just feeling really thankful right now. So I'm not trying to, like, yes, the Oscars were on, but I'm not trying to thank everybody under the damn sun. So we will be back hopefully next week. Don't know what we're going to talk about yet, but I'm sure it's going to be another great conversation. So this has been episode. Something. We got something. We got ideas. We got ideas for days. We got no shortage of notions and things we can discuss. So we'll figure something out. We'll make it work. So
that's right.
Thank you again for tuning in to episode 059, Faith of the American Warrior, with special guest Josh Rhoads of the Cornerstone Church in Deltona, Florida. Thank you so much again for being on the show. This has been the Battle Bros podcast with myself, Mac, and this handsome gentleman over here, Alamo. Thanks for stopping by, giving us a watch, a look, a listen, all that good stuff. We hope to see you again down the road soon. Check us out. And just remember, be tenacious, refuse to surrender, obliterate your obstacles, and seek out help in a time of need. If you can do those 4 things, you are going to be okay, and you can Charlie Mike. So until next time, thank you so much, and we'll see you down the road.
Battle Bros out. That took a minute.